All right, Nick, let's talk about the Oregon Ducks over the month of June. A little bit slower for the Ducks when you're talking about other teams in the college football realm. I think there's a lot of teams doing a lot of stuff in June, but as soon as the month of June struck midnight, you roll over into July. The Ducks started to catch fire. A lot of big time stuff happening in the recruiting world for them. But I think there's an underlying strategy, an underlying shift the Ducks have made that is going to make them be able to not just be college football playoff contenders, but to win the big one. I think Ducks fans are going to love this one. We'll get into that in a second here. But first, I'm Andrew. That's Nick. And this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, Oregon hot already to start off the month of July. A lot of really good stuff going on. Let's jump into that just to remind everybody, because there's a lot of stuff that happened. You could have missed one of them. Some really big moves, 3 to be precise, for the Oregon Ducks. Let's pull these up here, all from Hayes Fawcett over on X, one of the best reporters when it comes to recruiting and college football news. He's got all the sources. He's got all the information. So first up, says, breaking 4-star interior offensive lineman Tommy Tofi has committed to Oregon. He tells me for rivals, 6'6", 340-pound O-lineman from San Francisco, decommitted from Cal, flips to Oregon. Love that. Again, this is the big one. Breaking 5-star plus offensive tackle Emmanuel Iheanacho has committed to Oregon. 6'7", 365-pound offensive tackle committed to the Ducks over LSU, Penn State, and Auburn. That's a huge get for them, building this offensive line. Again, 2-star players here. And then finally, 4-star safety Devin Jackson has committed to Oregon. The Orlando, Florida guy chose the Ducks over Nebraska and Miami. So again, another big get. 4-star, 5-star guys for Oregon rolling in here. And I think the key here is when you look at what Oregon is doing under the radar, there's something special going on here. If we roll back to the 2024 class for Oregon, you can see what they did. They had 26 commits in that class. I think that's a lot of commits. They did a lot of work. They got a lot of guys to come in. When we look at this 2025 class that just passed, 16 guys. So a pretty big drop off there as far as number of players, 10 less players there. And we're already seeing in this 2026 class, 14 guys. So again, less players than 2024. But what is going on? What could possibly be better about that? I think there's a strategy in Oregon going on where they're going less volume, more quality. And that brings me to our next chart here, showing the average quality of recruits the past 3 recruiting classes for the Oregon Ducks. And I think there's something special going on here when you look at what they got going on. So 2024 here, you look at Oregon, what they're able to bring to the table. The Ducks, they're doing good. We're talking about the best probably 3-4 teams in the college football landscape right now. Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, shown here from left to right. And Oregon, they're third. That's not a bad place to be at, but that's not best. That doesn't win. You look who's first. Ohio State is first for this 2024 class. What do? They go win a national championship. Oregon third. What do? They fall just short. They don't make the big show. So we go to the next year, 2025, this current incoming class. What does Oregon do? They shift the deck. They get less recruits, but their average quality of recruit jumps up, and they do really great job here. 94.35 average overall recruit ranking for Oregon. The next one, 93.63 for Texas. So over 1 point over where the Texas Longhorns are on average per player. So again, less recruits, more quality in recruiting. Now we jump to 2026 already. We're seeing that trend continue. Do they get more guys in the 2026 class? I don't know. But the thing here is they are still keeping up, getting high quality recruits. We saw it from the 3 guys they got, a 5-star plus and 2 4-star guys. And now again, already 93.15 overall average recruits for Oregon in 2026. The next closest team, Notre Dame, with 92.57, so almost a whole point higher than the competition. We're seeing big things happen in Oregon. They're making a lot of moves right now. A little quiet in June, starting July off with a bang. but we can see they have been focusing and trying to get better quality recruits, better quality depth on this team going forward. I think it's going to make a big difference. Like I said, look at 2024. Who had the best quality recruits of the top four teams? Ohio State. What do? They go win a national championship. Oregon doing that now. They're following. Let's see where the success was. What did the teams that were better than us do? They had better quality recruits. Okay, let's go out. Let's do that. I think this is a brilliant model by Dan Lanning and co. And I think it's going to give some big results. I think this is the year Oregon pulls it off. Doesn't just make it to the show, but they win the whole dang thing. I think Oregon fans are going to love this one. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Oregon fans, in the comment section below, we're talking about, Oregon going in, analyzing the competition. What do they do? What do teams do better than Oregon? How can they change things? How can they get better as a program? And to that, I ask you a very interesting question here. Of all the teams in the college football landscape, what is a team that you think does something better than Oregon? Do they recruit a certain player better? Do they develop players better? Something along those lines. What's another team that does something really well that you wish Oregon would copy? And what is it that they do better? And put it in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest news out of Eugene?
So I think what's very interesting and when it comes to recruiting, there's basically two sides to the coin, and there's the obvious side, right? If you recruit well, let's say in 2022, you'll be a good football team by 2024, right? Obviously, makes sense. You had good football players, give them a year to develop, you become a good football team. But what's also interesting, right? So to take a step back, you look at good recruiting as kind of a leading indicator. You recruit well, that's a sign of programs trending in the right direction, but can also give you a snapshot in time in terms of how talented you are. And this is what a lot of people miss out is that usually the best teams today recruit the best from the classes for tomorrow, right? The best rosters today, the most talented rosters, the rosters that are most prepared to win now, also recruit extremely well right now. It's kind of weird. It's kind of almost paradoxical to think about it that way because you see, oh, if I'm a recruit, if I'm a 5-star guy, if I'm a 4-star elite guy, I look at a talented roster and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be buried on the depth chart for a few years. I don't want to go play there. But that's not how athletes think. It's not how these star players think. We talk about all the time. A players want to play with A players. A players don't want to play with B players. They'd be happy to split time with another A player than to go be a superstar with B minus and C players, right? It's what happened with the Alabama Crimson Tide under the Nick Saban dynasty. They just were loaded with guys. They'd win a national title, and they at the same time had the number one recruiting class with elite quality players across the board, offense, defense, special teams, guys that were willing to sit and wait and split time for a chance to play with a bunch of other elite players. That's what we're seeing with the Oregon Ducks. And I love the graphic you pulled up. If you don't mind pulling it up here just for a second, mine to highlight what I'm talking about. We saw this last year. Ohio State had the highest quality recruiting class, right? You can see it right there. They obviously won the national title. I don't hopefully don't have to remind you Oregon fans too much of that playoff game. But the reality is it is a snapshot in time of how good you are recruiting. The recruits in the 2024 class, the quality guys, the elite guys, they looked at Ohio State's roster in 2024 and they said, okay, this is a special group, right? I want to go and play with the A players in Columbus. Now let's look at 2025 and it's carrying over to 2026. What are recruits saying across the country? They're saying, I want to go to Oregon, the best players, the top recruits. I want to go to Oregon because they have the best players. That's what the data is saying. By the way, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, they are crushing it in the recruiting game. They're having phenomenal off seasons, right? It's not like we're comparing Oregon to, not to pick on other programs here, Oregon State, Washington State, or anything Purdue, Indiana, right? We're not picking on mid-tier schools and just saying, look how good Oregon's doing, right? These are programs, top blue bloods that had really, really good off seasons. Notre Dame especially has been crushing it. Texas, Ohio State under the radar, but they're doing very well. And despite that, Oregon, again, the data, they are crushing them in terms of quality. They are doing a phenomenal job. And obviously, Dan Lanning, his staff deserve a lot of credit. But I think we have to understand the mindset of the elite recruit. Elite recruits look at rosters that are stacked with talent and say, I want to go there. And so that's not only, so that goes back to my first point, right? When recruiting can be a leading indicator, it also tells you today who the best roster is. We look at who has the best recruiting class, and certainly in terms of quality, and we say that's a team that's going to be the best in 2 years. And while I believe that's true, it also tells you what team is the best today because the best players want to play with the best players. I'm going to hammer that home here because it's so important, right? You don't get the best recruits with the best sales pitch, right? You don't get the best 5-star recruits, the best quality recruits by throwing a lot of NIL money at kids, right? Because guess what? Texas has a lot of NIL money. Ohio State, a lot of NIL money. Oklahoma, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, go down the list, right? They all have a lot of money, a lot of perks, a lot of things they can sell a lot of great recruiting staffs, right? General managers, right? However you want to describe it, they can throw on it thick, they can throw it on heavy, they can put on a sales pitch that'll blow your socks off. The only way you get the highest quality recruits is if your roster is stacked with other A players that these high quality kids want to play with. And that's what Oregon has. That's what these recruits recognize. All of these talented guys recognize that Oregon is where the talent is. That's where the best players are, and they're going to meet him. We saw this in 2024 in Ohio State. This was an indicator. I think we're seeing this in 2025 with the Oregon Ducks. They already were a contender to win the Big Ten, repeat winner of the Big Ten, to go back to the national championship college football playoff. The question is now, can they take that next step? If you listen to the recruits, if you look at that as an indicator, which has been a really strong one in the past, like you said, Mize, they are in a seriously good position to win it all in 2025.